Hello and welcome to the Sweet Georgia Show, the podcast dedicated to exploring craft, creativity, and what drives us to create. I'm Felicia Lo, the founder and creative director of Sweet Georgia Yarns, an artisan yarn company based in Vancouver, Canada, and also the School of Sweet Georgia, our online fiber arts membership and learning community. On the Sweet Georgia Show, we deep dive into conversations with the creatives and craftspeople who ignite joy in their communities through their work. From knitters and spinners to weavers, fiber artists, and multi-craft jewel makers, these are many of the individuals who have shaped and inspired my own creative path. Together, we'll explore the heart of the creative process, unraveling why making is so intrinsically tied to our human experience and our personal identity. My hope is that these conversations will inspire some fresh spark fresh inspiration, add a dash of color, and infuse your own crafting journey with more joy. So grab your favorite project, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the unapologetically colorful world of Sweet Georgia. Imagine inheriting a half-finished project, something that's a tangible expression of a loved one's passion left behind after loss. What do you do with that half-finished project? Is there a way to honor the person who was creating that project? The person who intended to make something for someone? That's the heart of this Loose Ends project. And today I'm sitting down with its co-founders, Masey Kaplan and Jen Simonic. Today we're going to talk about their journey so far, from the spark of an idea in 2022 to now a global community of over 33,000 crafters, all united by a shared mission to bring closure and comfort through the act of finishing what was left behind. So we'll explore some of the personal stories that fueled this movement and the challenges of managing such a vast network of people, and also the sheer power of crafting to heal and connect. There are some really beautiful moments in today's conversation about navigating the delicate balance between memorializing loved ones through their crafts. We'll also talk about the practical side too, including the logistics of connecting finishers with the unfinished projects, and how Jen and Masey are facing the unexpected challenges of losing their major sponsor, which was Joann. As you may know, Joann was an 80-year-old fabric and craft chain store that had 800 store locations throughout the United States, and they are set to close all 800 stores in 2025. It's a devastating loss to crafters in many communities and also a significant loss for the Loose Ends project. And so we're talking about all the different ways that we as a craft community can help support the continued growth and resilience of the Loose Ends project. You can find all the details about the Loose Ends project at looseends.org, and you can also support their fundraiser at looseends.org/donate. This episode is a testament to the profound impact of creativity, the enduring power of community, and the transformation. This episode is hopefully a testament to the profound impact of creativity and the enduring power of community. This episode is hopefully a testament to the profound impact of creativity and the enduring power of community. I hope that you'll be inspired by the stories of the Loose Ends project and also learn more about how crafting can bring comfort and connection in the most unexpected ways. I'm so excited to chat with you both today, Masey and Jen from Loose Ends. I had just learned about your project. It was almost a year ago when we were at H&H Americas in Chicago, which is that craft industry trade show. And you guys were up to receive an award for the Golden Scissors Award that was presented by Craft Industry Alliance in 2024 on how you have contributed to the craft industry and the craft community with this very, very special project called Loose Ends. And so I would love to hear about the project today. And we can maybe start off with, if you guys can each introduce yourselves a little bit and talk a bit about your background and maybe how you guys met as well. So why don't we start with you, Masey?
So I'm I'm Masey Kaplan, and I am the executive director and co-founder. Jen, Simonic, and I started this together just under about 2.5 years ago. So we just met you a year ago, but we haven't been around for very long yet. Jen and I go back about 30 years. Our Jen and my spouse and her spouse all went to college together, and so that's how we met. And Jen and I would always sneak off and knit together whenever everyone would get, all the college buddies would get together. And we had that in common and our love of textile crafting. So just about 2.5 years ago, we were in cahoots. We'll talk more about that after, but that's sort of our background and our friendship that has been almost 30 years long. My background before Loose Ends was in marketing and graphic design, primarily for nonprofits. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
It's perfect. You're very well suited for all of this then, for sure. Yeah. How about you, Jen?
Before doing Loose Ends, I was in the corporate world. I did a couple startups in technology and ended up being in corporate sales enablement and product teams. That's kind of how I ended up working on the app that we're working on to make the matching work better. And way before that, I worked for Girl Scouts and was a public school teacher for a really long time.
So this is it's just a really positive combination of all of your skills and your background then for this project. That's quite amazing.
It really is.
Yeah. So tell me about, you guys went to college together. Did you knit in class while you were in college or?
I did. Once I figured out it helped me concentrate a little bit more, I would knit in classes just to kind of help me focus. Some people got it. Some people didn't. Some people asked me to put it away, but to their detriment, then I was going to not do what I was supposed to do. But yeah, I think with the pandemic, people are becoming more and more accustomed to people knitting beyond the Zoom line. And it's always been something that I've done on and off since I was 6. So just always been something that's been very calming and something I really like to do. And when I can't do it, it makes me a little anxious. So
yeah,
I'm not knitting right now. I'm injured right now.
So tell me about the project that you guys came to create. What sort of led to this? And you've been knitting for 30 years and you've been for many, many years. And now where did the idea come from?
So Jen and I had both finished projects for friends who had lost their moms. And it just felt really, really good to be able to do that and to be able to offer any kind of comfort to somebody who's grieving. It feels really good as a friend to be able to do that. And so having had that personal experience, we had been talking about it for a while before we actually did it. 1, 2, 3 summers ago? Was it 3 summers ago?
I think it was 20.
We were all on the West Coast for a school-related reunion. I'm just a +1 at those things. But at the time, the host for this event was our friend Patty, who had recently lost her mom. And Patty asked us if we would help her go through her mom's things, her crafting bags. And as we were doing that, we were pulling out, Jen was separating all the different size needles. We were pulling out materials. And in so doing, we found 2 partially begun blankets that Patty's mom had been making for Patty's 2 brothers. And they were crocheted. And Jen and I joke all the time about how, neither of us crochet isn't our first craft. Although I'm starting to do it a little bit more. But at the time we were looking at maybe there were 6 inches of these big blankets started. Patty's mom had been doing chemo treatments at the time. And so we had the beginnings. I think she was anxious to get started on them and wanted to leave them for her kids. And so they were tight, they were irregular, but it didn't really matter.
Double crochet the whole way. It wasn't like an intricate stitch you could get into. It was just go.
Great. A sea of blue and another sea of green. And we were about to say, we'll do these for you because, we love you and we want you to your brothers to have them. And we had been talking about the concept of loose ends for a while. And it just the synapses connected. And we thought, you know what, this might be a good time in an effort to not have to do these ourselves. This might be a good time to think about potentially launching a pilot of this idea and seeing if there's any interest. And
there was.
Yeah, there was. And so we were able to leave that reunion kind of with marching orders, create a way for people to sign up, create a way for people to sign up as volunteers and also to submit projects. If people were to visit our website now, which is looseends.org, it looks very different than it did originally. It was just like, okay, we kind of have felt our way through to creating this bigger thing. But at the time, it was very like, let's make some flyers. Let's put just together a very simple way for people to get engaged. And Jen and I printed out these flyers and really hoofed it to yarn stores and senior centers, with our paper. And we're like, will you hang this up, please? And just kind of connected that way. And that's really how the very beginnings of Loose Ends got started.
Yeah. So I see like in August 2022, and you just started with just a handful of projects and that you've sort of got from the sending out the flyers. Friends, did you use any social media or as a Ravelry at the time or anything like that? Or mostly just like word of mouth, just very local community?
Yeah. And we set up a bunch of flyers all over the place. Coffee shops, we went to hospice, we went everywhere. But then we set up a Facebook page where people could join us. And Masey started putting things out there in the universe on Instagram and on Facebook. But then we also started sneaking into guilds and into knitting forums and crochet forums and saying, hey, does anyone want to help? We got kicked out of some of them. Some of them we've gotten back into, I hope. Some of them we'll never get back into.
One of them breaks my heart. I got kicked out of one of my favorites.
I bet you could get it back on if we could probably get back in. But it was mostly, hey, does anyone want to do this? And then, sometimes they'd be the guests and sometimes they wouldn't. By December of that year, we had about 500 finishers and 5 projects, maybe 20 projects. And then today we have over 3,000 projects and I think we're almost at 33,000 finishers. We gain more finishers every week. And those finishers are in 74 countries now. We have projects that have actively happened in 13. We don't speak other languages. I speak a little bit of French. I can't speak for Masey. I think she's been learning French too for her neighbors in Maine. But when people come to us and say, hey, well, you don't have something in, you don't have anything in Hebrew, you don't have anything in Spanish, you don't have we ask them, hey, will you make a flyer for us? We find a native speaker, they make a flyer, they find crafts that make sense for that language. The crafts you're going to have in Thailand versus the crafts you're going to have in Iceland are going to be different. Not a lot of Icelandic sweaters in Thailand versus, intricate needlework that happens. So we're trying to make things so that when people see our flyers and they see it in their language, it makes sense for them to want to trust us with their items. So we're trying to be as inclusive as possible and try and make this for everyone, because crafting is one of those things that hold us together around the world. And, making things with string and yarn is something that we can all get together around.
Mm-hmm. This project, the concept of it is just absolutely amazing and so wonderful because to have lost somebody, I know I've lost people as well, and I've received all of their their equipment and tools and things like that afterwards, but not necessarily know what happened to the projects that they were working on halfway through, or if they were intended for anyone or anything like that. So just to have those, the idea of it is so wonderful, and so that you can pass on the intent of the person who was making it, right? If they were trying to make something for a loved one and they wanted to share the sentiment, to be able to fully complete that feeling is so wonderful that you guys are able to do this. But it sounds like the project itself, the logistics of it and organizing all of it, the fact that it's global and you're working with almost 33,000 finishers, like you said, and 1,000 projects, this is a really big job. It's become a really big job in just 2-3 years now. Is it just the two of you doing all of this? Because there's translation work and there's coordination and lots of emailing, I'd imagine. Is it just you two, or is there more?
Yeah. So if on a base level, it's the two of us and we have a lovely board that works with us, but it's really 3,000 volunteers that have all stepped up to help us. Now, everyone doesn't have a project because they understand. The thing is, our finishers get the whole thing. They get the fact that they're going to leave behind things. They're going to have stuff behind. What the people who have these left behind objects don't always know that we exist, don't always know what the thing is. There's a lot of times we'll get an email that says, my mom was an excellent knitter. And we're like, no, she was a crocheter and she was just learning. And that's fine. We have a lot of projects where people were beginners, but they had the intent to finish something. On the tech side, we have about 12 engineers who are helping with their talents freely, which is amazing. We've got people stepping up around the globe saying, I have these skills. Can I help? This is something that someone did for me once, and I think it's important. So when I talk to people about it, the ownership that comes through in our finishers, even if they haven't gotten a project, is pretty amazing. We had a woman sign up and then was on Jeopardy. On Jeopardy, she's like, this is what I want to do in my free time. I volunteer for this organization. She hadn't gotten a project yet, but she thought it was important enough to spread the word that way. So yeah, it is the two of us. And there is a lot of work that goes into matching these projects and all of the work that Masey does on our social media and the work I do with our volunteers. There's a lot of work, but it's really not just us. It's all these people who are helping us with what's going on the background and on the match. We match. Masey and I aren't sitting there knitting like ferociously. I mean, we would be, but that's not what we're doing.
I look forward to doing that again someday.
That's be us someday.
Yes.
But mostly we're just looking at spreadsheets and trying to match things and trying to make and following up with people. And because none of this all happens virtually, which is why we're allowed to do it across the globe. So, a project comes in, we look at it and figure out what's needed and who's needed. We find the location, we go to our app, we figure out who we have in that location that's nearby, who has the skills and whether or not they like to do that. Masey says they're druthers because it's a volunteer organization. We don't want you doing something that you hate. If you don't like knitting with black yarn, we're not going to make you do that. We have 4 other people. That's exactly what they like to do. And then we match people up and we let them go on their merry way and ask them to update us so we know what's going on. And at the end, we ask if they could send us a picture so that we can show them off and show off their work.
Yeah, when I was looking at your website, I noticed this is not just for knitting projects and it's not just for crochet projects, but there's also, you have on the list everything, including weaving. There's punch needle, I think you said, and there's a whole bunch of different crafts going on here. So it's not just for knitters, it's for all sorts of different crafts. How does one bring a weaving project to you if it's on a weaving loom?
Masey,
that one?
Yeah. I think that's one of her
Every
favorites.
time a project comes in on a loom, I don't know, something just awakens in me. I love that. And we have just had some of the sweetest in general, really sweet stories all the time, but we'll go through all kinds of extra efforts to try to move a gigantic piece of furniture, which is a loom, to where it needs to go. Weavers have signed up as volunteers. Not every weaver has a giant space or, the space in their apartment or their house to bring a loom in. We've had people submit weaving projects that they don't want any more done on it. They just want it taken off so that their loved one's work can just be left, as is, but they don't know how to get it off the loom, right? That's happened. We had an amazing project in the UK where a woman passed away and her sister and she was a loom collector. She used to collect and refurbish looms and also was an amazingly gifted weaver. And she had 3 projects on 3 giant looms that 2 of them needed to get taken off. And one of them needed weaving done and needed to get taken off. And it was just really this whole cool kind of kismet story where the finisher that we happened to invite to be their finisher knew of the original crafter. She had been following her blog where she was teaching people how to refurbish a certain kind of loom. This finisher was doing this in tandem. So she was also finished. She was waiting for the next installment from this crafter to what is the next step? We're doing this together. And then didn't find out that she had passed away until we reached out to her and said, would you be willing to step in and be the finisher for these? And she was so excited to be able to do it. After some time, and she didn't have the space in her apartment for 3 giant looms. So what she did, well, as most people would. And so she was able to partner with a local museum that gave her the space. We had a truck come and bring the 3 looms to the museum where she was able to go on weekends to work on them, finished all 3. And the BBC did a story on it, and it was really, really neat. But anyway, looms are more challenging. And that leads me a little bit to when we think about how we're going to grow and expand in the future. Everyone asks us about woodworking, which is a dream to do someday. We've already matched some woodworking projects and some chair caning projects and some like a little bit off mission so far. And they're not textiles particularly. I mean, caning, I guess you could argue is maybe. But I think the weaving on a loom might be practice for that in a sense, because with 32,000 plus finishers signed up, we can almost always match people locally, or at least within an hour or a couple hours drive, or they'll meet in the middle. Having that pool of resources where people can be connected close does make us think that maybe someday woodworking could be possible, because you can't really put furniture into the mail easily. So anyway, that's a dream for...
And I think it's completely possible. We just need to tap into the woodworking ethos. And I think what happens is, as we get the word spreads about all the fiber arts, those people have spouses, those people also do woodworking, and they're always asking about, we do get a lot of inquiries like, why don't you do this? And we're like, we just haven't figured it out yet. So
yeah. And we're still so small. I mean, it's the 2 of us and our board. And so, yeah, as we grow, we'll start to dream bigger dreams, I think.
For sure. But this is already like a very big mission that you guys are on right now. And just hearing these stories are amazing. I love that idea that the museum donated space in order to allow for this to happen. I think that that's such an amazing collaboration. That's a real gift for sure. In terms of like geographic location, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, if there's 32,000, 33,000 finishers already signed up, then I'm sure that there must be finishers in Vancouver that are here, like in my local community that I didn't even know were probably volunteering, but there must
be. Vancouver, Canada, or Vancouver?
Yeah, Canada.
Yeah, there's tons. And we've got...
I'll take a look really quick.
Yeah, I feel like we have a couple hundred up in Vancouver.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because I'm in Seattle, Washington, and we've got hundreds here, like within a mile of me. And that's where we started. So we do have a lot of Vancouver. And we actually finished a project in Vancouver, which was a blanket passed down from a mother to a daughter to another daughter. And it was a Visible Men project. The woman had this crochet blanket and didn't want to lose it, didn't want to throw it away, and wanted to have it fixed. And so we found somebody who visibly mended it. It was just beautiful, the work that they did. And that was in Vancouver, pretty sure.
You guys must have the most amazing collection of stories to tell. Just like the most beautiful stories. I would be crying every day if I was like...
Some of them are very silly, and some of them are very some of them. I had in Australia, somebody had a kit, one of those anatomy ones where it's a dissected frog. Somebody had gotten it from their mom and just didn't finish it. And we had someone finish it. And every once in a while, I get a story that made me cry. And then I get an email from that woman. She'd be like, I just learned how to felt so I could make the spleen. I was like, I needed that today. Thank you.
That is fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're looking at this project, there's a number of ways that people can participate, right? They could provide a project, they could submit a project, or they could volunteer to be a finisher. One of the things that you guys have on your website, which I thought was really helpful, and I feel like I should use it anyways, is the downloadable project tracker. It's just like a PDF, and it's a form. You say, like, this is my project, this is what yarn I'm using, this is what my gauge is, blah, 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 this is what my pattern is. And then you just stick that in your bag, and just to have that as just in case, like just information for whoever finds that bag at a later time. I feel like it would be helpful just for me, just to even remember when I pick up my bag, like a year later, what was I doing in here?
What was I doing?
Well, I
It's
mean,
a reminder to me, at least.
how many projects do you have, Felicia, going at one time?
I have no idea. I
Right?
have no idea. I have never stopped to count. It would, yeah.
And I think that's something that happens with most people. It doesn't it when I talk to a lot of death and dying organizations, it's all about like not leaving a mess behind, but also don't leave a mess for yourself. I've got about 10 projects. It's good to have notes. Masey has a beautiful book. She keeps all of her projects in. I just have bags all over the place that I am hopefully left notes. So these project trackers are really good for that. We've also had people like they saw us in AARP magazine, ripped the article out and shoved it in their bag. And then when they passed away, their children have found that and contacted us. I can't reiterate this enough that it's important for you to make a plan, even if it's a little one, like have a sticker somewhere, tell somebody what you're thinking about with your stuff, because we all leave these things behind, and it's not always the person who finds it and deals with it doesn't always have the skill to finish it. So it takes a lot of guilt out of it.
Absolutely.
You're going to know how to do this before I die. Well, I might not pick up doily making. So, let's find somebody who's really into that to help me.
Absolutely. So what do you see? Like, you've already been doing this for about 2 or 3 years. Like, can you see, 2 or 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what do you want the project to look like, and how do you want this to grow?
That's a great question. The timing of that question is just tricky because our primary sponsor was Joanne, and they just closed their doors. So in a sense, it's making us have to reevaluate how we're going to do it. And so, but we're not going anywhere. Like, we're going to continue to match. We're going to continue to do what we're doing. We have to slow down a little bit temporarily until we figure out how to kind of fill the gap that Joanne was filling. I don't think that the projects are going to slow down. I mean, no one's going to not pass away. We're all going to. And we're all going to do that with multiple projects on our needles, right? Like, I think right after the pandemic, there was a count of like 65 million knitters alone in the United States alone. So with that in mind, multiply that by, X number of countries and X number of different crafts besides knitting. And I think there are a wealth of projects to finish. So our plan is to just keep chugging along and matching as many as we can. I mean, hopefully we'll grow and hire help and be able to do more and more in terms of matching textile projects. Jen is working on getting our app to do fancier things than it already does, which is going to be really helpful. And then when we think about growing, besides just growing, there's tons of room to just grow in what we're already doing. And then we start to dream dreams like woodworking. I actually have there was a sword, a metalsmithing project that we're going to try to match. So, there's a lot of crafts.
There's a lot of crafts, and I think for the time being, our big plan is to make it easier and scalable to match things. Because right now we have all of our finishers in our database, which make it easier for us to search. But when everything's in a spreadsheet, those spreadsheets get unwieldy. They can get lost. Like, it's not ideal. And having our app be able to manage the projects so that we can send out emails from there means that it's not dependent on one person. If we get hit by a bus, we could say somebody could go in there and manage the projects. That's the hope, to kind of future proof it and make it so that we can be here, and it's not dependent on one person being here. It's dependent on we know that there's this network of people who want to help, and having this technology in place, and having funding in place so that we can continue to have people working on it is a big deal for us, so that we can continue the mission. So in 5 years, we're going to be here. I just don't know what it looks like. And I know that there's a need, and we all know that there's a need. So it's just going to be our community rallying around us and helping us out at this point. Joanne's going out of business was a big blow for us, for the crafting community in general. That was the local yarn shop or the local fabric store for a lot of communities in the United States. And the job loss alone is hard. And then when you dig down into the charities that were going to be affected and the small vendors where that was their biggest client, that's a big deal. So it can't put too fine a point on it. Joann's was going out with is going to do some damage around our communities. We've just been looking to others around our community to see if they can support us, and their response has been pretty amazing. People are eager to help in many different ways, which is great.
Yeah, I think that definitely the loss of Joann's is going to be so difficult. I mean, it's an 80-year-old company, employed so many people, was the local yarn shop for so many people in their communities. And so I'm sure that something will something will need to come in and sort of help support that community, maybe other yarn shops, maybe other craft stores to grow in that place. But what's the best way that people then can come and help support you? I know that they can come to your website. You do have is a fundraiser available and open on your website, which is at looseends.org/donate. But is that the best place that people can sort of help support your project, or is there anything else that we can do?
For now, that's great. I mean, that's wonderful. We always love that. On that same page, if you have materials to donate, we don't take them. I always find that important to say because people get excited. But because people are always coming to us asking about donating materials, on that same page, we have a huge list that was compiled by Masey's mom of all of the places around the country that take donations. And if you've got places if you're an organization that takes donations, we'd love to have you up there to support you as well. So just email us at info@looseensproject.org. How else can they help us, Masey?
I would say another biggie, if right now, you mentioned anyone can sign up to become a finisher. We're always welcoming new finishers. We're always welcoming new projects. We always are excited when people follow us on social media or want to donate. When folks download our flyer, Jen mentioned earlier how the flyer is available in more than 20 languages. When people download the flyer and share that, it really does wonders for getting the word out there. We're also really looking for other corporate sponsorship opportunities. So if someone has a connection to someone who might be interested in what we're doing and want to partner, we would love to hear about that.
We also have a private Facebook group that we have. So because there's 32,000 finishers, and because there's only 3,000 projects, there's a lot of people who don't have anything to do right away. I think that's the most contentious point. People are like, when project?
No.
And then other people are like, someone died. And you're like, two things can be true. You can be excited, and that's great. And we love your excitement. And yeah, something has to happen to someone for this project to be available. But that doesn't make you bad that you're excited. And we're happy to have you. But in our finisher group on Facebook, it's an opportunity to figure out problems like, hey, I need to source this yarn. Can you help me? Hey, I don't know what this is. When we first started, I got a Tunisian crochet project and I'd never seen Tunisian crochet. So I put it out there and I was like, I think this is knitting. No, within 2 minutes, no, that's Tunisian crochet. Like, okay, because the internet's a nice place to be very subtle. No, wrong.
We got schooled.
We get schooled. And you know what? That's fine. I love when people share their knowledge. It's great. And an hour we had videos posted to show us how Tunisian crochet got done. And then within a day or two, we had 3 people who were like, I can do that. Do you want me to finish? So we get a lot of help and support from those guys. When Joann's went out of business, we had them suggesting places to talk to have you tried talking to these people? We're always open to that. You never know who someone's going to know,
Absolutely. So I think that it's just mainly come and help support and spread the word. Just let everybody know.
Yeah.
If you can get on Jeopardy, that's the place to tell
I mean,
people. Tell people.
Yeah. That's kind of people who help us. And I can't stress this enough. People who come and help us are good people. They're people who want to help other people. The interactions have been lovely. I do finally match people. Words like honor, privilege are things that come out from our finishers. Like, it's such an honor. It's a privilege to work on your mother's stuff. They really take this personally. And I do meet people in the world who are like, people do that? I'm like, yeah, people do that all the time. And they're always surprised. And I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why. You look around at all the crafters in the world, 60% of what they make is for other people. So yeah, there are people who knit for themselves. My list is so long, I never get to knit for myself. I have a sweater on needles. At some point, I'll be able to do it. But for the most part, we're trying to do things for other people. So it's not surprising that all these people have shown up. It's not surprising that they want to help in any way they can. I think what's surprising is that we're so divided in the world right now. And all it takes is you just get one layer beneath all that stuff. And it's people who want to help each other because they have to live near each other and they want to exist. We don't ask you what religion you are. We don't ask you what your politics are. We ask you to leave all that at the door. And it's pretty much a be good or be gone kind of a place. And we don't have to say be good that often. People are people. So every once in a while, someone will be feisty. But for the most part, it's all done with love. Right, Masey?
100%. Yeah. I mean, loss is going to affect everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle anyone is on. You're going to lose loved ones. Everybody does. And likewise, crafting doesn't see any of that either. So when we make matches, it really is about an individual's desire to comfort somebody else who is experiencing something that they have also probably experienced too, or will. So we really do get to see the best part of people every day, which is, you mentioned earlier, like I would cry every day. Sometimes that is true, but also it is just such a blessing to be able to witness people being generous to each other every single day, multiple times over.
Yeah. And our finishers will tell us, I didn't expect this to affect me, but it really did. Like working on this and putting in that last stitch really just kind of made me really think about all the times I've made these things for other people and how important it is to me. We do have a tradition, at least in the knitting projects, and they figured out how to do it in some of the other projects where we mark the last stitch of the original crafter, if possible. In knitting, it's really nice. You can do a nice duplicate stitch and it looks like a heart. In cross stitch, we can do it where it's a different color thread that goes out there. Sometimes people put stitch holders. I've seen in quilts, sometimes mom left a needle in the quilt and it, if it's been there long enough, it's got a little rust on it. They'll put a bow on that needle and leave it there. So there's a lot of ways that we can memorialize a person with a nice touch like that. Whenever they ask me, people are always like, should I put a big flower or something like that? I'm always like, why don't you do something inside so it's a nice little secret for the person? No, it doesn't interfere with what its daily use,
Yeah, that was something that our finishers did. Like we never told them to do that, but it was early on. This one project that kind of kicked it off, that this couple, quite young couple, and he had lost his wife to cancer, and he submitted the scarf that she had been making for him. That was a brioche scarf. And the finisher came up with it. That was the finisher who I think was the
started it all.
Yeah.
And that finisher, that finisher got the project and called me. I think I still have my phone number on all the flyers, which has been taken off since it's not, I'm sure you can find it if you want to give me a call. But that finisher called me and was like, she was so invested in getting it done that she learned how to do brioche. She hadn't done brioche before. She just really invested a lot of time and energy to make sure that it got done. And we learned so much from that project. Sometimes people go dark. Sometimes the project owners aren't prepared to give the project over. Like there's a lot of things that we learned in the last 2 years that I'm sure we're going to learn more in the next 10. Yeah. People are, I think that the biggest thing is people are genuinely good. Yeah.
This story is just like a humans helping humans kind of story. It's just fully 100% about the human experience. And I think that you just provided this way for people to receive the gift of love from the person who wanted to make the thing in the first place, but then also to provide this avenue that's making very meaningful for the person who continues to finish the project and to make it.
Exactly.
It's just very meaningful.
It's a gift for both. It's a gift to receive the project back, and it's also a gift to be able to do something. It feels good, especially with these days where things can just feel bleak. To be able to do something for someone else is a gift. So it's really, I don't even know who benefits more. I couldn't even tell you which side.
And one of the things that is also really important are having those conversations with your loved ones before something terrible happens, and having those conversations with yourself. If you've got 30 works in progress, perhaps some of them shouldn't be finished. Like there's things that we try and we're like, sometimes we get projects and they're like, my mom finished everything, but I found this argyle pattern stuck in the back of her closet. And I'm like, oh, I think I know what happened there. Sometimes you start something and it's like, I don't want to do this. And you should get rid of it. Get rid of it.
If you don't want it back.
If you don't want it back, if it's something that didn't give you joy, get rid of it. I tell this story and I will get rid of this someday. I have a bikini top I was crocheting. Nobody needs that. I don't need that. Like, I need to get rid of it.
So we might have used the same pattern because I started knitting, like crocheting a bikini like 15 years ago too.
Yeah. And
it was one pattern.
It would have looked cute, maybe, but like no one's that now. No one needs that. We need to get rid of those things. Like, get rid of them.
If you die,
give the yarn to someone else.
My kids will find it and then they'll be like, oh, Mom wanted to make this bikini.
Right. Yeah. Or I always say my daughter's going to bury me in it. Like she'll have it finished and she'll be like, Mom wanted to be buried in this. No.
We're just trying something out.
So far, there's something got messed up so badly that it became too hard to finish. And so people, and I get it, like, especially if you've invested like $300 into yarn or something, like you don't want to just, get a good friend who's willing to frog for you so you don't have to do it and frog it. Like, let them frog it, because otherwise we're going to wind up having to match something that's going in the wrong direction, I guess. Sometimes that happens.
What was that one? We had one project where I was having like daily talks with a finisher and she was crying because it was intarsia in the round with a decrease on a sleeve. And I was like, yes, this is hateful. This is a hateful pattern. You don't have to do it. And we found somebody who's like, I love doing that. That's my favorite. I was like, all right. And we matched it. That's one of the joys of having so many finishers, is that if it's not something you like, you can say, I don't want to. And there's usually someone who's like, yeah, I love doing those. I'll of course do that. That would be great. So
I love hearing how like
there's too many finishers. There's never enough. There's never enough finishers because we don't know when we're going to need you.
Yeah, I think that your program is very flexible and it's very fluid. And it sounds like, if this match doesn't work, then we can figure something else out. So it's not like set in stone. Once you receive a project, you must finish it until the end, and all of this kind of stuff. It's very flexible, it seems.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. We love rematching things because that means that someone didn't just have a bad experience and not tell us about it. We love if it's not your cup of tea, or if life gets in the way, or if you break your wrist, or if your family needs you right now, or you got a new job, or you're too busy right now, it's okay. Like, we are always happy to rematch a project, and we can usually do it in a way where someone's going to pull up to your driveway and grab it up from you. It's easy.
Fantastic. So do you have anything on your needles right now?
Yes. It's a sore subject, Felicia. I hurt myself doing this. Yeah. Ergonomics is important, people. I was knitting until 4 a.m. with a hunched posture, and I'm making a beautiful fisherman's knit sweater for my son, but it's got to have to wait till I heal. How about you, Masey?
I have lots of things. I just finished this in the car. It's a hat I made up. I made up this pattern.
That's pretty.
Backwards.
It's got some nice cables on it. Is this single cables on there?
Yeah. Single cables, just like a little traveling line. Yep. I've got a few sweaters going. I've just recently started quilting more, and I have 2 quilts going. One's for a baby and one's for a big person. And I just started learning Tunisian crochet, which is fun. It's sort of like, doesn't look like regular crochet, but it goes fast like crochet, and it does some neat patterns. I started using Tony Lipsy has a program, and I bought her book and started looking at her YouTube. It was an easier way to learn it. It would have been great to have someone sitting next to me showing me, but it was a good second, But anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Tunisian crochet is having like a moment right now. So yeah, I'm going to learn that too this year.
Yeah, it was on my New Year's resolution list. And also to learn, mosaic knitting and mosaic crochet, both of which I learned that I barely have to learn. They're actually very...
I bought that pattern in that yarn to do the mosaic cowl, I think. That's on my list. There's so many things to do. There's so
many things.
You need to get your hands all better.
Yeah. It'll be better. It's coming.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Well, thank you both for joining me today. It was really, really lovely to chat with you both and learn about the program. I hope that many, many people go and check out your website, looseends.org, and find out all about it, and then read more and more of the stories. The finisher stories are wonderful and just like really, really, really lovely. So yeah, thanks for coming and sharing all that with us today.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. This was really fun.